Oh, that was a long day, but I got my wall piece done. So I was recently talking about not quitting when the going gets tough, and I was saying that it has a lot to do with things I've done in the past, not just with my attitude, on the day. And I have one of those stories from the past to share with you. I don't talk about this kind of stuff very often because generally these things uh, that are like the story I'm about to tell are things I do for myself, not for telling other people, just for my own personal growth. But I'm going to share one. So one year, this is 15 years ago, by the way, and this still has huge effects on my life now. One year, 15 or so years ago, I lived in Cape Cod for the winter. And Cape Cod is in the northeastern United States, and it's cold there in the winter. Like ice and snow, all that. And I was living near the beach, and every morning I decided I was going to run to the beach, run 4 miles down the beach, uh, turn up to the road, which runs parallel to the beach, and then run 4 miles back along the road. So I'd have 4 miles of, difficult trudgery through the sand, because it's hard to run through sand. And then I could hit the road and, come back fast and hard. I'm just going to leave that. So at the beginning of the winter, it wasn't that cold, and I also decided I was just going to do this in shorts and t-shirt the whole time, because I knew I was planning to go off grid soon, and I knew I might, need to toughen up myself in general. Anyway, so first day I go out, it's pretty chilly, but nothing bad for me. So I run to the end, run back. That's good. As the weeks went on, it started getting colder and colder, and I'd go out there in my t-shirt and shorts, and I'd run like 5 or 6 minute miles because I would get too cold otherwise. And the cold was really good for that because that would keep me going. Anytime I thought about, oh, maybe I should slow down, the cold would say, no, no, you better keep going or you're going to freeze your stuff off. So it was really good for that. Now, halfway down the beach on this run, about 2 miles in, with 2 miles to go on the beach, there was this section that was maybe a quarter mile long where people's houses and restaurants and things had been built pretty close to the actual water level on the beach. So during low tide, I could get to this point and I'd kind of time it when I was coming up to there, where a big wave would have just come in, and then on its way out, I'd just bust it and start cruising through there. And the wave would go out, and I'd be racing it, and it would start coming back in. I'd try to get to the end, and then keep going before the wave gets to me. And then I would get out, back up higher on the beach and continue. But during higher tides, sometimes I could go through there, and when the wave was low, I could just be ankle deep and just run through real fast, because when your foot hits, it splashes the water out, and then you have like a second before the water rushes back in. So if you can get your foot out of there, you can stay mostly dry running through there, as long as you go fast. But then other times the tide would be high, like knee height, waist height. Then I just trudged through, and it was cold. But whatever, I did it, and it was fine. But then one day came when it was like halfway through the winter, and it was cold, like really cold. Like the cold where you stick your head outside to check, and you sniff, and you can feel your nose hairs freeze to each other. Anyone who's lived in the winter, in a cold winter, knows what I'm talking about, I'm sure. It's the cold where you go outside and it just feels like painful, kind of. I thought maybe I should get some gloves at least, or I don't know. And I was like, no. I need to see how far I can go, because I think a human can do this. So I get out there. I hit the ground running hard, because I know I need to warm up myself a lot, because it is really cold. It's like -30 out. So I run to the beach, hit the beach. I'm like, just take the corner, and I'm going hard. I noticed the tide is really high, which I was kind of aware of because I've been paying attention to the tides. And for the 2 miles up to that point, I'm thinking, do I run through the water, or do I take a cut up to the road, go around, then keep going and skip that part where I have to run through the water? And I'm looking at the water, and it's got ice blocks, like big ice blocks floating around, because it's cold enough that the salt water's freezing. And the water's moving enough. It's not a solid sheet or anything. It's just this big ice chunks, like all over the place. So, I'm not really decided, but I guess I was just kind of reserving my conclusion as long as possible. So I'm coming up to the point where the water is right up to the wall, and I can see it's like when the waves are low, it's like knee deep, and when the waves come in, it's like ankle or waist deep. And if I go through that, I'm going to be going for at least a couple of minutes through this waist deep in freezing salt water, which is really cold. So just as I'm coming up to it, it's my last chance to turn up to the road. I think, no, you know what? I need to push this as far as I can, because I need to know how far I can go without dying, basically. And I'm paying attention. I've done a lot of physical things, things like this, where I know if I'm really getting in trouble or not. So I just make sure I'm paying attention to that. And I think, okay, I know that even if I get really cold, I can still make it back to the house. I can cut up to the road and get back to the house. But, there may come a time when I need to know how far I can push myself. And right now I can do it without a huge risk, because I'm in a fairly safe place. I can get to help if I need. Anyway. And I know a lot of people hear this kind of thing, and they're like, why would you do that? Why would you do something like life risking when you don't have to? Well, I'll get to that. So I passed the last turnoff up to the road. And at that point, I'm like, I'm not turning back after this. I'm not doing a U-turn. So I just start busting as fast as I can go. And, I hit the water. I'm ankle deep, knee deep, waist deep real quick. Because, I just have to go right into the water. And I'm slogging through the stuff, pushing ice blocks out of the way with my bare hands, saltwater ice block, like really, really cold. And yeah, I'm totally soaked by the time I'm halfway through this thing, because I'm slogging through, I'm splashing, just water's everywhere. And I get to the end of the water part, and run back up higher on the beach where I'm out of the water, and I just have this sort of mild panic where I'm like, this is the coldest I've ever been. Like, no question. Like, not just like I've had cold fingers and toes before, I've had snow stuffed down my back before, but I've never been anywhere near this cold, like to my core. And I think I can go up to the road and just head back right now. But I just remember thinking, while I was still running while I was thinking this, because I wasn't going to stop and think about it. I just thought, you know what? I'm pretty sure a human can do this. And that was just my last thought for like the next 6 miles. I just thought, you know what? A human can do this. And so I started running as hard as I could. I was in like 6 inches of snow on the sand, just busting butt. I get to the end of the beach, and that erases any chances of turning back, because now my normal route is to turn back. I've got the 4 miles back. So I go up to the road, run back. It's cold, but by the time I'm halfway back to the house, I don't feel cold anymore. No, I still feel cold, but I don't feel the discomfort I had at the beginning of the run before I even hit the water. Because at the beginning of the run, I was like, holy cow, this is cold. And even when I'd been running for 1.5 miles before I hit the water, I'd gotten mostly warmed up from running. But I was still like, I just had this really bad discomfort. You might call it pain, I guess. But on the way back, halfway back, I realized, like, I'm not really in pain anymore. It's not that I'm numb. Like I get, like, cause I've burned out the numbness. I've warmed up and I can feel the cold again, and I can feel everything, but it doesn't feel anywhere near as bad as it did before. And that's because in that moment when I had the decision to either turn back or keep going, I reset my comfort zone. And when I hit the water and I went through that, it just took my comfort zone and shifted it way, way deep into what used to be painful. And suddenly that became okay. And that's the biggest reason I do those kinds of things, is because it like levels me up. Like people, I'm always talking about how people spend hundreds of thousands of hours leveling up characters in video games, but they don't level up themselves in real life. Often in real life, you level yourself up with little decisions here and there. And all I had to do was decide, I'm not quitting, I'm not turning back, I'm going to keep going. And in that one 15-minute period, it just took my comfort zone and shoved it way over, and I could handle so much more. So I kept running, got back to the house, and you might think I would feel like tired, worn out, and horrible, but I just felt energized and really good. Like, like I felt like I could handle a lot more than I thought I could handle an hour earlier. And here's the really important thing. If I wasn't going to give up when there was nothing on the line, when there was no bragging rights, no medal, no life-saving situation going on, it was just me against nothing. If I wasn't going to give up when things were that difficult and painful and just really, really difficult circumstances, if I wasn't going to give up then, why would I ever give up when it really mattered?